Abusuafo sɛ nea medi kankan na nnɛ ɛyɛ World Refugee Day. Wɔne ntɔkwa ɛne manson ɛne basabatayɛ esi wɔn kuro so nti wɔn afiri wɔn kurom akɔtena aman ahodoɔ so. Ɛnnɛ UN ɛde esi wɔ so yɛnhyɛ fa na yɛmfa nto mmɔntene so na nipa nyinaa hunu bra a wɔbrɛ ɛne hia sɛ wɔsi yɛn asomdwe ba yɛ kurom ne baabi a yɛteɛ. Yɛnya owura David Opon ofiri UNHCR, UN High Commissioner for refugees na any displaced people oni yen ebedi enkomo anapɛ. Owura David Opon, good morning. Sɛ wote me nka. If you can kindly unmute for me so I can hear you. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
It's awesome to hear your voice. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing so well. God is keeping us safe.
God is keeping us safe indeed, and we thank God for peace in Ghana. All right, so Today is World Refugee Day. What are we doing this day, even before we come to the main conversation for the day? Why was it constituted, and exactly what happens on a day like today?
Okay, so every 20th of June, globally, the United Nations has set this day aside to show solidarity to persons, as you rightly put it, who are displaced. Displaced here means that they have been forcibly displaced. So it's not their intention to have left their homes to have sought for asylum in another country. So these are persons who have been forced to flee their homes for reasons of conflict or the fact that maybe they are being persecuted in their country and they need to cross an international border to seek the protection of another state. So this day is set aside to show solidarity to such persons who find themselves in that kind of situation. So that is why this day is being marked globally.
Okay. So according to the UN, about 110 million people globally have been displaced. And out of that, here in Ghana, we have 13,000 of that number. First of all, what is causing this huge number of people displaced? What is going on?
Yes, so I mean, if you've been following the global trend of displacement, you would see what is happening currently between Gaza and Israel. Of course, that is a good reason for people to flee their homes. You see that of Ukraine, Russia, that is a good reason for people to flee from their homes. Just some few years ago, you saw what was happening in Afghanistan, the struggle for power between the Taliban and the government. We saw thousands of people also fleeing from the state of Afghanistan. And you come to the context of Africa, the situation is not anything different. Africa for over years now, we've been plagued with so many civil wars. There have been recurrent or coup d'etats. So these things have not stopped. So, of course, you could see what is happening in Sudan. You go to Cameroon, the struggle between the North and the South. These are factors that would push. I mean, just right, like you put it, our neighbor, Burkina Faso, they are also in a similar situation. And so, yes, that's the situation we find ourselves in globally now.
Okay, so this morning, according to international news, Sudan is the worst humanitarian crisis in the world now. They did not even mention Israel and Gaza because everyone is saying Gaza is worse. But this morning, according to international media, if I can quote BBC, they are saying Sudan is the world's worst humanitarian crisis right now. What is the UNHCR doing about it, even before we come to focus on Ghana?
Yes, so Sudan currently is looking as if it's a collapsed state. The rate of people leaving Sudan to Chad, Chad has been the host to most of Sudanese population. I can tell you that on daily basis, you have record of about over 100,000 people arriving in Chad. So Chad you would say that is in a serious humanitarian crisis because of the numbers. And for most of the countries in Africa are low and middle income countries. And so, of course, if you have such numbers arriving in your territory in hundreds of thousands on daily basis, together with the existing population, I mean, that is certainly a situation that you wouldn't want it to happen to you in your country. So for us as UNHCR, we've been working a lot with the government. So in Chad, UNHCR is present, but I would say that because this is a humanitarian crisis, you can't only depend on UNHCR.
Yeah.
So there are other UN agencies like UNICEF, you have WFP, you have UNDP, and there are other international NGOs, local NGOs, who work together with the government to respond to the refugee situation ongoing in Chad now.
All right, and not just in Chad, Ethiopia as well. I was monitoring for
Yeah,
the sake of this
Ethiopia,
conversation. Yeah,
yes, Ethiopia,
they are.
Ethiopia is
Yeah,
receiving a number of them, even South Sudan.
yeah.
So all the neighboring countries, they also have their
Okay.
fair share of the numbers. Yeah.
Okay, so like I said, 13,000 of those people are in Ghana. That is the number given by the UN, who shared the latest year. Now, the PNDC Law 305D and the Child Rights Act 1998 protects these children, as you can see on the screen this morning. That is where I want us to focus on. Some of these children are from these countries that you mentioned. What is Ghana doing about these children on our streets?
Okay, so just to try to delineate who migrants and refugees are, because oftentimes we do get this confusion out there in the public. There are times that children on the streets have been described to be refugees, but it could be that they are not refugees. But it's also not to say that these could also not be refugees. So we have children on the streets that are coming from other countries, not because their lives were in danger and they have to be on the streets of Ghana. Some of them are just here because of economic reasons. But of course, when you want to look at persons who have fled and have entered into Ghana and they want to seek asylum, there is a process. So the Ghana Refugee Board, that is the agency that is mandated by the law, the 1992 refugee law here in Ghana, which is the domesticated law. So once you have made your intention known that you are here to seek asylum, the Ghana Refugee Board would have documented you. You will be on their database. That is what allows the state as a government and that of UNHCR, together with our partners, to be able to offer protection to these persons. So in Ghana, for instance, we have the refugee camps in Krisan in the western region. We have the Ampain. Now we don't have majority of our population in Ampain because it used to host the Ivorians. And now peace has returned to Ivory Coast. So a number of the Ivorians have returned. That was last year, we had a voluntary repatriation for many of them who had left. And we used to have the Fetenta camp. Now it's also no more because we had a number of the Ivorians in these locations. So yes, if your intentions are known, the government together with UNHCR, we are there to, ensure that you are protected, you are able to enjoy services just like Ghanaians do.
Refugee Day, what do you want to tell Ghanaians watching Max TV this morning, especially in the face of this year being an election year? And it's actually, 2024 is actually a global election year. That almost half of the world is voting. What do you want to tell us before we say goodbye to you?
Okay, so I think Ghana, we have been fortunate to have enjoyed some stability in terms of peace for so many years. Since some of us were born, we only came to see a Ghana that has been peaceful. And we wish that it stays as it is. This is an election year. We are hoping that Ghana is able to go to a peaceful pose. We don't have any skirmishes. We don't have any disturbances. so that we continue to enjoy our peace. Because just around us, all the countries around us, you see Cote d'Ivoire, you see that of Togo, you see that of Burkina Faso. These are countries that have gone through serious disturbances that have caused a number of people to have fled this country. So for us, it's been a safe haven to most of these neighboring countries. If there are issues, most of their nationals would have run to Ghana to seek for asylum. It's been a safe haven. And we wish that that stays. Because if Ghana has to get into a situation where people have to now flee, then of course, I don't think for many of these neighboring states around us, because of their, situations that they are coming from, going to add on to their situation, you wouldn't want to see that picture.
Yeah.
So we hope that you are able to enjoy our peace. And of course, I tell you, if you are able to interact with some of the refugees, imagine hearing gunshots and you can't find your father, you can't find your mother. Yesterday, we had a panel discussion with one former Liberian refugee who is now a lecturer at the University of Ghana. I mean, in his narration back in the 90s with the civil war in Liberia, I mean, he couldn't, I mean, that was the end. He never saw his father again and got to Ghana at the age of 26. And from that time, never met any of his siblings again. I mean, that is how bad things can be if war happens in any country. So we wish Ghana a peaceful election. We hope that we are able to stay safe and continue to enjoy our peace.
All right, Mr. David Ampofo from UNHCR. Thank you so much. We appreciate your company on the Max Morning Show this morning. Do have a blessed day.
Right.
We're having a conversation with Mr. David Ampofo from UNHCR. Today is World Refugee Day. Mumfanche say ya bro for sem na sem all kan say refugees say adosun and pim and a we are seeing na ye hwe entokwa si amama ahodo so a ene so kan bi o say Africa ha Cote d'Ivoire Sudan any one ye kukunku ntokwa e kan ho bi and as say nipa abo ahwese saa na o ka say Liberian lecturer bia say a lecturer with University of Ghana or see enra o tena ase a na omu di nkomo no kan na sem say at age 21 tama na akon ni ade cha still ane nkofo mu so mu kunkum nipa odwane ebedu Ghana no we hu ni papa biom we hu ni maami biom we hu ni ma biom ye mata ye nsunu mu o say ban na mi hu mi ma biom a ade na meka ye mi ma wahi me na mewu so hu abusuafo ye address we nyina me ye hunu say entokwa nye basabasa ye nye na ye pese ye ni yewra bright appear from Child Rights International and so din command pay ni ye hwe emofra ya eni na nenam kwan mu kwan ye befa so aboa wo mu ananu mi hu ba kun bi na mitika mu traffic achi na obegina ho na ode ne nsa kwa na no ode ne nsa kwa na no na me hwe abofra na ni se ne esi aye yellow na me hwe se ne ananim asa ahunhunu aye a me si abofra was sickle cell either say abofra was sickle cell and say bibi because asa nefu adoa nefu aye pe na funu asa ye humu oxygen and anani aye yellow abofra ne nsem aye yellow ne hu ye me mo bose abona me kasa abofra senye sickle cell no wa e be se bibi koso wo ne yem baabi enso abofra ni nam kwan so esresre senka bibia koso ye wo ne kromu a enkoba betena Ghana ha yenim se nipa bonfuo bi enam kwati kwan so ekọ aman a ekom ene basabasa ye si ho ekọ fasa nkrai ede won fra enwan ni mponche ene anantwie ede won twa kwan ba Ghana so wo mesresre na wonim se won egina kwan wo sresre no so wo sresre a wo masters bi wo ho a wo di sika ne ko na wo mo achem no mo ama won kitwa bi o mo han dan single room bi a nipa beye ne ho gum ai any child rights for edin komo a we put this to them. These are allegations and kofo can say no crese and kofo bi etwamu ko Mali Cote d'Ivoire chiri ho ba bi any child ni ade nto mu kofa na ntwie na na e di san kofo ahehya na ntwie ni mu we bill la eba na say ya na ntwie but na nipa hyehyem na ye de wan be pie Ghana so wo mesresre wo sresre etoda nkura na yare no omu jiji scan na no mu de ko wheelchair ne ya GS ho ne ya de omakoto dan bi mu ade achi a no wa beji wheelchair no wo wi a no wa be sales Yes, sir, na ekɔ so menim sɛ child rights for artists asɛm we a nkora na ni na ne nam kwam hɔ saa na yɛhwɛ ɔmo saa no the next generation of criminals if you say wa nko school onyini do baabi a am roberts ba befa no the next generation of miscreants the next generation of one e be nyinsɛ asɛ Ghana na ehu wɔn saa no onam hɔ saa no onam hɔ a they could be minka sɛ ebetumi ayɛ ɛwɔ sɛ yɛde ya no cancer mpa but the third a yɛadwene papa ne yɛadwene bɔne nkura na ɔmo ne na ne nam kwan mu hɔ no ɛtɔda na nipa bɔnfo bi akye wɔn ne ayɛ wɔn nyɛdoa wobɛhu wɔn na ɔmo ntoma akɛse wobɛhu no wɔnyem woka sɛ ɔmo nyina na ɔmo wɔ kunu no ohia ɛne ɛkɔm waahwɛ nipa ba ana no me ba baako birthday ne kunu sɛ yɛnoa no aduane na yɛmfa nyɛ pack ne yɛmfa nkɔma ɔmo me do wa na me de me di si wa na me tena ka mu na me mpɛ sɛ obi kura behu sɛ ma me yɛ saa de because ɛwɔ mu sɛ yɛ ma wɔ skanti ne wɔne na ne nam kwan ne ho saa no but so ɔmo wɔ baabi da ɔmo wɔ baabi da okay yɛ wɔ hwɛ wa hwɛ nkora yi a ne tiri ho asɛ baabi bosom wɔbɔ so yɛfa bi nyɛ sere ebusuafo yɛwɔ video bi a yɛ ready yɛnkɔbɔ na yɛma yɛba a yɛne yɛbɛhwɛ sɛ yɛbɛnya Mr. Bright appear na yɛne no edi nkɔmɔ afa nkora yi.
In the Greater Accra region of Ghana, it is estimated that over 61,000 children live on the streets, most believed to be refugee children. As of January 2024, Ghana hosted around 10,690 registered refugees and asylum seekers, mainly from Burkina Faso, Togo, Liberia, and Sudan. This phenomenon has become a growing social concern as more children are forced to struggle daily to survive. Most of these children are unable to access their basic rights, including education, safety, quality healthcare, and a decent standard of living. Unfortunately, these children are not only victims but are also vulnerable to being recruited into dangerous activities like armed robbery and prostitution. Here at the Darkman Junction, you can see street children sitting on the floor, begging for alms to survive alongside their mothers. Many of them extend their begging to areas like the Dansuman traffic light, First Light, and other places. The harsh reality is that no street child is safe.
Ebusuafo asifem areho, especially we about time na hu we na we yam. And so yepese yede Emfoni a yayi hu nsem ebusa owura Bright appear Child Rights International titreni eja ma che ya o te menka ma che o
ya me joso
ahwa asa no pay waba abeka ye ho ye da se yi pa em se wo mfoni a yeyi on Max TV say ai ene eye World Refugee Day. Na answer na ebe kwaso kra mi busa wo refugees, displaced people, any migrants. Church Ghana from sa no ma miensen na yenti asie yi.
Yeka refugee I'm say ekodudo na amomo anka so mo definition. Na ni ebe kama obi a etimenya se ho nti ase ne say ebia obi kaze obi a refugee na je say it's by a certain condition bi or nipa na intimintra baby a otino and I say krua o maya otimu no ebia okumbi cause unti ontimintra and I say akom esi ho and also ontimintra ho ntino obetimi abebodwa wo aman foforo so a oman mra enso ese yetimi manipa no baby a obetimi atra ama ono nso eniama o man etimi ye no ono nso afa ho etimi aye bi intino that is a can refugee na and I almost misplaced ebia na certain emergency conditions bi wo ho a etimi misplace enkrofo in a sense ebia memfa say ni esi wo mepese no and no say can be categorized under the almost misplaced because of that condition intino as yet me relocate sankrofo no momunya baby a on betimi atrama mo so etimi abobra amano akoye. Enti both systems ultimately there's an underlying issue that cut across that has to do with the fact that irrespective of the condition or the person becomes vulnerable. So for that matter, no, the system should be there to be able to provide support.
Ejapia waka system ye share Children's Act 1998 Act 560 now. Bruni said this act ensures the welfare and protection of all children in Ghana, including refugees. It mandates the provision of basic needs such as health, education, and protection from abuse and exploitation. Now, Nkrai a good street, immediately say Child Rights International. Makuma so ade kese pa say mo betumi aye bibi aboa nkora edie ne ye now they are all over the place, they are all over jamigidi se hu se nkora edie na ye betumi aye emra kwan so aboa sa nkofo yi omo afri kwan so
Yo, me da say, emra kwan de enema pi wo ho aye betumi de aye de aboa. Na ese yetimi enya ho ntiase ese enkora omonam ekwan ho no. First of all, no etiamra. And again, also, no, it leads to the violation of Enkorano right, senior Okan, you know. And it is also against international norms and regulations. And declare, no matter how you look at Enkoro more Kwan under no circumstances should we even see the situation and say, yentimi nyahu bibia, yetimi yahu bibi. Na eba mremu a mrano ekyere se oman no ezimi tu ho anamo no bo Enkorano ho ban. Because one of the things that international the convention on the right of the child and is every child is a universal citizen. Once they meet a particular requirement of a particular state, they are entitled to enjoy all the benefit or all the enyama or minor DSU also between their born Korano. So those children are also entitled to do it. And the irony is that if you also fail to provide those requirements for Nkorano, so you are also violating the right of Nkorano. That is why Emraneka said children are universal citizens. At every material moment, as he to me, a bit me a born Nkorano. Clearly,
I was see it to me, but are we doing anything?
You see, that is where the issue is. As of mine, mean to me, as of mine, in but attitude of man, you know, honor me, feel a toasting kakra because. And Crown by Bono. Osha, Ghana was the first country to ratify the Convention on the Right of the Child. Sure, we have accepted a responsibility. So we expect in our deeds, in our conduct, we would exhibit that kind of priority in Ayadema Emrano. But on that basis, in Ametimiaka say, ye share that and ye Now again, also no Emremo Ankasa de or my Ghana tumra ho anamopa ebo niema pi ho ba ka nkora nso ka ho. Na se ye de sa emra no be adwuma no so no. Eno so na kire se oman no attitude towards those things no. Emwa because o hwe a emra mu no ankanse so akora bia wa bonten because emra no aka no clearly se ba se eba nkora hwe mu a oman create different layers say bibi to akora se bako anye adwuma se bako ye adwuma sa bako no so anye adwuma se the final one no so etimi ye adwuma. So under no circumstances should children suffer even if the family is not in a position to provide care for the Korano. Into the first layer na say ebusua and say family system no should be able to provide care for Korano. Na say ebusua na ntimi anya na say mrane che say so mutimi investigation na ye hwem say ebusua no omuni akandi anaso omuni capacity ombetimi ahwe akora nti na so man ntimi take up that responsibility. It is that responsibility na nkasa no ye dey share MMDAs na nkasa ensa say at least omutimi nya hwe man kora no kwa their right to education must be protected and then be taken over by these MMDAs. Now beyond that, so the are making it clear that even if the assembly is not fully clear, our social welfare system should be able to rescue and Korano to give them the maximum support. And even within the social welfare, Nankasano, Amrano so actually say social welfare nya akɔra bi na so fi sɛ obi wɔ ɔman mu no obetimi ahwɛ akɔra na obetimi de akɔra no ama obi fufuro ama na hwɛ no through maybe adoption and as a fosterage. So these are systems and some na yɛwɔ wɔn a yɛ from caregivers and yɛwɔ wɔn a yɛ from fit persons no. Nti no we have opened a lot of channels ebetimi aboa for us to provide some kind of care for akɔra and no circumstances should they suffer. Esa ase sa nneɛma no enye adwuma ni nti na yehu nkɔra wɔ abɔnten a ɔmo nso ɛpre sɛ ɔmo ano aduane everyday no ɔmbenye bibi edi na ɛba street nkɔra na nkasa nso a ɛsi yenya sante ase ne sɛ ɛnya Ghana fo nko na ɛsra adeɛ wɔ street no so yɛ research a yɛyɛ 2015 clearly shows sɛ nkɔra ɔmo gu kwan no so no Omunya Ghana for nkwa. There's a lot of almost your foreigners are omoba. And now one of the things that you say in relation to the foreigners, in fact, who Tracy the who Tracy ni pa who say Ghana for almost were basically introduced by foreigners. Omudi kan babese adieno. Because naturally Ghana ni ebe obi dey say obe man ba kwa kwosra de okwan ho. In the rural communities so you see that kind of historical antecedent establishes anka Ghana ni will find it very difficult but it will be under a very difficult situation and into the introduction of begging on the streets was done by foreigners because they are from war-torn areas. They started invading the street. Almost says right and yeah, and also clearly those days almost stations Kenya. Now they were getting a lot of money. They saw it as business. To the extent that some of them Corona trace Burkina Faso, Togo, Ivory Coast, Chad, Nizania Meninano. Who says Ankorano school, but what they do is that when they're on vacation, parents, Ghana, study because they realize Ghana is a conducive environment to beg. And the laws are not so straight to say, Australia. Obiba account, and our generosity is known all over the world. Say, you're Ghanaian. One of the things that defines you is your generosity. And they take advantage of some of these things to bring and cry. And they say, my reporters, at a certain season, and at a certain season also they are limited in terms of more. But the dangerous aspect of it is that so we don't even know where they go. Say obi form and I say obi di omukwako de bonia. The system cannot even trace yankorano. Into Osha buying records mupa. I find it very difficult to carry out research to even know the number of children on the street because they are unable to trace the whereabouts of Yankorano. There's no much research in that area to be able to say, and these are the interventions that we want to give. Anything that Ama Sanyama about but child right
say a be a shada court sanko for krum eko fa won di womba wo be sresre na won so wanya profit from you be business away minim say sasem ya ba officer what is sasem ya.
Oh yes ebi no business into share the trafficking zones no kra do na fa Ghana and Sanako other countries and I said the entry point also and I said receiving end we serve as both the receiving end and then also the sending point in India. Into ebi no business into when it comes to the trafficking system part in India but me as the Ghana Police Service or more anti-trafficking unit they've done a comprehensive work in that area because there's a lot of prosecutions in respect to that. but near ye a yini one more or money or my for ebano. Because Sakura is in the company of Nema and ne papa. It's a very difficult to say Akorano ne mami and ne papa I traffic Akorano. By looking at the circumstances and the way they work in Indiana, clearly should give you the indication say indeed no and yama be oha enkoye. You know, enti ye as a juma ko ya research p na ohwe a the assembly court in 2002 say say about to be 200 more yeah the Supreme Court and I'm the last year yana Supreme Court edibe to just say assembly ya de buy no assembly hu hia de but the kwan ya fa so de assembly bre omo no omo ngi ni say omo na was a jurisdiction to be able to hear it into the yanko appropriate forum into as we speak no the lawyers are preparing the omo area omo de be high court you best take some kind of interventions be to ensure say yankora no more street no yetimi etu hwana mo ama omo nso efi ama omo so omo fa hodie no etintim
Happy answer na ebe mo akono me busa last question. Child rights for ankasa. Once na me twa me hu one of the children na nani aye yellow as an nani mu ahohono usum say retention of fluids any omo ka no ne na esisi fom nyina hono ne nsa nyina ahohono na abofra ne gina wotum say clearly abofra we it's either say bia a sickle cell and I say some kidney condition and I say baby in your capacity as child rights, or do you organize some health screening, some sort of feeding and some humanitarian ventures for these children? Finally, before we go.
Yeah. We did a health screening on Ankara NOB. Yeah, we managed to get them to Medina, and yes, a health screening because as part of the research, you know, now you see who or health condition and then the common disease that they attract the most to see say is it good for the child to be on the street. Until we did that, and periodically, you know, so no, we provide some kind of support for Omo street, you know. But ebedum pempensobia ye who say providing the support alone no, is not enough because you all this scammer I can tell you on authority say about 90% of sesi can kwakora no omo hihye nwura mu ho no and omo hye nnuana so omo tisi nnuana se no omo na omo benefit from that sika. And I always discourage people say all this kabesha kwara answer there anka ye nyina ye mbo na or health condition bia we should be able to provide that healthcare ebe benefit akra nankasa. Entino we've done a lot of work in that area, and we are hoping, say, as time goes by, now we are able to get the intervention of the court to make any pronouncement. At least all these inquiring, will be in a position to support them, especially when it comes to health and then their right to education.
Eja bright up here and pay ye da CP so abeka ye ho max morning so ye gidi say at the appropriate time ye be for new wedding ko na ye pese ye hunu say mo ye screening no yare ahodo ben na mo hunu ye e kwan ben so na Ghana for faith based organizations any others betumi abeso mo asene as Child Rights International mo betumi akọ sa nkran mu a enti ye be san frɛ wo biom na ye di sa enkomo no even more at the appropriate time. All right, that's it. Right. Director Penny or that Child Rights International. Ghana had a